Hello and welcome to the Week 17 edition of the Monster Pod here, presented by The Lines, TheLines.com. Matt Brown, Mo Nuwwarah coming to you, running through each and every game, all the bets that are in our accounts and anything that we are considering as well. Of course, we are well into Week 17 as we had 3 different games already behind us here. And Mo, this is definitely a forward-looking show, but I think for me, one of the things that I did take away just from the games this past weekend moving forward, and we've talked about this a couple of different times here, this Houston team is fake news. This is like they are complete and utter fugazi, and I can't wait to figure out the best spot to fade them somewhere along the way, whether it be next week, whether it be the playoffs, whether it be whatever it might be. But holy mackerel, that offense just does not function at all.
Kind of liked Houston, like I said on the show. I'm very happy that I held off on there because, and the only reason I honestly did was because everything I was reading was telling me the game was honestly mattered a negative amount for Houston. Yeah. So maybe they would just roll out their worst plays and let Baltimore, the players are obviously trying, but like if you're in that coaching staff and you're looking at the various paths through the playoffs, aren't you? Wait a second. Maybe we just call the most vanilla plays, see if Baltimore beats us, and then, quietly boost Baltimore into the higher seed so we don't have to play them first game.
I would like to believe that there's a whole bunch of that, like going on behind the scenes. Chiefs go comfortably win against the Steelers. I think this kind of goes back to the same thing that we've said as well. I mean, how sustainable was that Steelers offense with basically forcing themselves to get 30 and 40-yard chunk plays in order to even look like a remote offense? That just was not sustainable on a week-in, week-out basis. And then we'll try and forget that the Seahawks and Bears even happened. We'll just try and not even remember that game was a thing, because holy hell, that was something else. That said, if you guys played first quarter, first half, it still got home. I don't know how. It still got home, but we did cash 2 tickets on that game. But let's kick things off here. Indianapolis Colts on the road at the New York Football Giants. This is 7.5. in favor of the Colts. I see it coming through the Twitter machine right now, Mo, that still listed as questionable is Anthony Richardson, though he did not practice all week long. So it would be Flacco if that were the case. But look, the Giants are going to throw this. I mean, Malik Neighbors didn't practice. Tyrone Tracy didn't practice for them. Like they're doing it smart. They're doing it the right way. It seems like America's teaser of the week, right? I mean, like this is just it, right?
Yeah, John Michael Schmidt's the center as well. It's just I can't. I think this line looks a tad inflated, especially given the way the Colts want to play football, which is basically they want to run and they want to throw deep. And I don't know if people have looked at the weather yet this week, but basically every outdoor game is going to be in a monsoon, it looks like. So given that, I don't know if they're going to be able to throw deep. So I don't know how you can cover a number like this by just running the ball. So I'm a little bit leery of laying a big number with the Colts. I just can't trust them laying a big number when I don't know if they're going to be able to hit anything down the field. So this is just a complete stay away for me. In that sense, I will say I kind of like the under. I did play some under 40, I think, or 40.5, and I just don't know how these teams are scoring 20 points in a monsoon with Neighbors out, with bad weather. I mean, yeah, of course, Jonathan Taylor could rip off 200 yards, but even if he does, it's still not guaranteed to go over.
I'll admit, I did play kind of the alt line parlay thing here that I've kind of grown accustomed to, which is just I don't need the full 6. I'll take the 5 to get it under 2.5, under the 3 to get it to 2.5, and used Indy in a leg for one of those. That's kind of how I cannot see unless this Giants team is just completely and utterly disconnected from the front office and everything else that's going on. Like I cannot see them winning this game. Like I honestly cannot see them winning this game. They're in the driver's seat for the number 1 overall pick. They've only got to lose 2 more games. Like that's it. You're already losing all these games to this anyway. You've only got to lose 2 more games. Don't win this one. So I took Indy down to 2.5. That being said, that was when I thought Anthony Richardson was going to play. I did this earlier on in the week. Joe Flacco certainly makes it a little less interesting for me in all of this, but it's still Flacco against the worst team in the NFL, so I don't hate it as much, I guess, Mo. But at the end of the day, if I had to make it today, I would probably just pass since I know it's likely to be Flacco. But it's in the account as it is anyway. Sometimes we have bad bets in our account. If you guys were here for the Saturday game, just stick around to the end of the podcast. We'll hit those Saturday games here towards the end. Flexed out Atlanta and Washington, so we'll hit that a little bit later. So we'll get to Las Vegas on the road at the New Orleans Saints. This is 1.5 in favor of the Raiders on the road at the Saints. A 37.5 is out there in the market right now as far as totals go. You can find as high as 38 out there. Mo, I don't know why, but New Orleans trying to bring Carr back, trying to bring Olave back, saying maybe, I mean, like, what? I don't get it at all. You would think if you're the GM of this team, you'd be like, no, we're not doing that. What the hell would we do that for? But that's the word anyway, that they're trying to get these guys back out on the field. Vegas, Aiden O'Connell actually looked fine, whatever. In all that, Vegas really nothing to play for either, obviously, but me being here in town, I'm privy to a couple of dudes that are in the locker room pretty regularly, and they are convinced this Vegas team is like still trying to win games, that everyone's still motivated, that everyone's still kind of like going after it, rah-rahing and all the different stuff like that. Said they talked to a couple of guys after the win last week, and they were like giddy, that they had won the game or whatever. So that's the only intel that I do have, but I think that's interesting, at least whenever we try to handicap this game.
Yeah, this is the Matt Brown special. Every week there's a game you want to fire into the sun. I mean, this week there's multiple, but This game definitely qualifies. I mean, my goodness. I don't even know where to begin on this one. I wasn't interested in anything really. Although, I mean, on the surface, when you look at this game, you're just like, there's a minus sign by the Raiders and they're on the road. I mean, I get that, like, the Saints looked atrocious and they couldn't score a point. And yes, Aiden O'Connell looks like a palatable NFL backup. But I just can't get behind the worst coach in the NFL being a road favorite. I mean, I just can't do it. So I can't recommend definitely betting on the Raiders. I mean, if you wanted to take an ultra gross New Orleans teaser at home at +8 or whatever, I actually don't think that's like terrible.
Yeah. No, because even if the Raiders win, right, they're not winning by margin. Like, I mean, like even if they win, they're not winning by margin. I don't think that that's the case here at all. Everybody last week was super excited about Kendre Miller. They didn't use him as the exclusive back or even use him as like the featured back, which I thought was weird. I just have no idea what's going on. It's kind of, you said, like, these are two different teams that are dead in like different ways, where it's like New Orleans already knows they're getting a new coach and whatever. Vegas, are they actually rallying around to try to keep some of these? Like, I don't really know. It's a very odd game for me. I don't hate your angle, actually, of just pumping New Orleans up, and Vegas just isn't going to win at margin. I don't see any way that happens. So that could certainly be an angle as well. And with so many question marks as to what New Orleans wants to do, I'm just going to stay away from this one. Titans on the road at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is 1.5. There's a pick 'em out there. So there's whatever. There's all kinds of numbers out here. Another beauty of a game here, Titans and Jags. 39.5 is our total. Mason Rudolph going to go for the Titans. I guess we can say that. We know Mac Jones, obviously, for the Jags. Maybe lame duck coaching staff. I would assume lame duck coaching staff for the Jags. Anything you see here at all?
This is like the rare game where, I mean, obviously, first of all, another fired into the sun game, but this is kind of the rare game where I actually kind of would prefer, from a Titan standpoint, if Will Levis was out there. Because this Jaguars defense, this secondary is so bad. I mean, Mason Rudolph is more of a conservative type of bad, where he's like not going to make huge blow-ups, but he's also not going to make very many big plays. Like Chigo Okonkwo is getting 10 targets a game.
Yes.
So like that pretty much tells you what he's out there doing. Tyjae Spears is catching all these. Like that. This is what he's doing. He's going out there and throwing checkdowns to Okonkwo and Spears. Like where Levis would actually rip the ball downfield, and there's going to be guys open against this atrocious Jaguars secondary. So I would actually be a little bit interested in the Titans, I think, just stylistically if Will Levis was in there. But, man, I mean, the Jaguars played one of the worst games of the season last week. Like, they kind of got dominated by the Raiders, and I was on the Jaguars, and that was disgusting how they played. So, no interest in this game for me. But if somebody wants to dig up some very deep Chig Okonkwo props, I would understand it.
Yeah, if I had to play this, I think I'd play the Titans. I mean, it seems like maybe there's just a little bit more juice there with them than it is with the Jags, but that's really and truly just like trying to squeeze something out of something that I really don't want to be playing at all. I actually don't hate what you're saying, though, about the Okonkwo. It's about the only thing we know heading into this is that Mason Rudolph loves just throwing it to the tight end. I mean, we at least know that. That's like about the only thing that we really know here heading into this game, but this is just a super, super gross one that I'm sure they thought when the schedule makers made it that this was going to be an awesome, meaningful game here in week 17. And then it was like, ends up being one of the worst games we have all season long. They were like, oh man, we're going to have Titans and Jags in week 17. It's going to be like, right. It's going to be for the division or at least like have something to do with it. No, not the case at all when they did that. Jets on the road at the Bills. This is 9.5, 10 in favor of the Bills at home over the Jets. 46.5 is our total. Seems like Aaron Rodgers is going to play all of that. Here's where I have to start taking the walk down narrative street here, Mo, because it's, the Bills are locked in to the 2 seed, right? What are they going to
basically? Yeah, very small chance they could lose.
Yes, yeah. I mean, all but locked into the 2 seed. Certainly, obviously, not getting the 1 seed. So then we're going to hear a lot over the next 2 weeks of what kind of effort we're going to get from the Bills. How long are those players going to be on the field? How long are those starters going to be on the field? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I hate trying to handicap stuff that I can't put any numbers to and all of that, but I think it's at least fair for us to discuss anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, they would, for people who don't know, they would need to lose their last 2, and Baltimore would need to win their last 2. So very unlikely that the Bills will be anything but the number 2 seed. I do think, let me just first say that I have a major sweat in this game. And that's I fired big on Josh Allen over 3,750 passing yards prior to the season. I could have never imagined he would be putting together an MVP campaign and I'd be still sweating this. But I need 202 yards, and it's not 100% that I'm going to get there because very likely they'll be resting starters after this week. So, he's had multiple games under 200 yards. So it's definitely, I'm a favorite, but I'm not a huge favorite. And, we'll see what happens there. But unfortunately, I do like the under in this game. I mean, I think my biggest hang up, like on the surface, this looks like a big number in terms of the spread. But then you look at the Jets. I don't know what they have left on their offensive line. I mean, this is a major concern for me. Olu Foshnu is out. He's for sure out. I think he went on IR with some kind of broken foot. Morgan Moses and Elijah Vera Tucker have yet to practice this week. Devontae Adams and Sauce Gardner as well. I don't know what is left of the Jets, just player-wise, coming into this game. Yeah. We've questioned the Jets' motivation level for multiple weeks. I can't get behind backing the Jets. As far as the under goes, I like it. Partially weather-based. 15-mile-per-hour winds and rain I'm seeing. That seems like a recipe for a lot of running from the Bills, which I think they want to do anyway. This Jets defense is pretty poor against the run. They are, looks like 29th in success rate, 26th in DVOA. They've gotten pounded by the run multiple games this year. The Bills just want to run the ball anyway, unfortunately for me. And then with the weather, I think they're going to be even more likely to run the ball. I think there are some game scripts where they get ahead, and kill the clock with a lot of running and just get after Aaron Rodgers because of this backup offensive line. The Bills have a decent pass rush. I just think they could run away with this, and this could be like a 31-10 type of game. It could be like both teams are maybe struggling to move the ball, and it's like a 24-13 type of game. But the total looks too high to me. So I know that the Bills have struggled in coverage, but I just think when your offensive line can't protect the quarterback, that weakness might be somewhat mitigated here along with the weather.
Yeah.
I don't think the Jets are going to be able to run the ball. They've struggled to run the ball all year. So, yeah, this is just a spot where the total looks too high to me.
I played a cute bet. If you don't want to follow me on this one, if you want to even leave in the comments that I'm a complete idiot, go right ahead. But it actually, Mo, with your handicap, it plays into what you're saying. So hopefully maybe it's not as cute as I thought. I played over 25.5 rushing yards for Ray Davis. Because I
like that.
Like, I see a world in which the Bills do get up in this game, and while it won't be like pull the starters at halftime type situation, it certainly might be pull the starters 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter type deal. He's probably going to have a few carries along the way as it is anyway throughout the course of the game, and then we get a nice, little kind of closing drive there of Ray Davis just running, at 4 yards a clip and whatever, closing out the game. I tend to believe that the Bills, knowing what you just said, is if they get this win and the 2 seeds locked up, that it's like, okay, we take care of business this week and then we can deal with next week as far as resting guys and all the different things like that. And so it's kind of cute. I know I'm getting a little outside of the box there, but he's a dude that's like, he has a role on the teams it is anyway. Yeah, he only gets a handful of carries, but if you're being smart, if you're the Bills, it's get the game in hand and then get the dudes out of there. Let's not risk anything and whatever. And so 26 yards for Ray Davis. He could get there anyway with just his normal workload that he gets, but I think he gets a little bit extra towards the end of this game as well. So that was my play here in this one.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with the way I think the game could go and the way I think the Bills are going to want to, if they're running the ball as much as I expect, then he's going to get his drives. And I think the Bills generally seem to me like they're pretty committed to playing the long game with James Cook. I don't think they want to run him into the ground. Yeah. They seem to be wanting to keep him fresh. They get Ty Johnson plenty of snaps. They get Ray Davis plenty of snaps. So I think that's a fine play.
Carolina Panthers on the road at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is 8.5 in favor of Tampa Bay. And God damn it, I'm going to say it. That's too many points. That's too much. I took the 8.5 with Carolina. That's fine. I'll go ahead and be proven wrong. But 48.5, by the way, the total. Mo, I rewatched the last 2 games before I made this bet for Carolina to make sure that I wasn't like romanticizing what I thought I was seeing. Because look, I do the 7 TVs and, I'm watching, but you're watching all the games at once and stuff. And so I was like, was I only looking up at like the good plays that Bryce Young made? Like, is that what was going on? Like, I miss all of the trash stuff. And so I all 22 the last 2 games. I actually think there's something there with this dude. Like, I really do. And I mean, I'm not a talent evaluator. And so any of you are, you can tell me that I'm crazy or something, but something's there, man. Like, I think Bryce Young might actually be okay in the NFL. Like, something happened when he got benched, and I don't know what it was. But 8.5 for me for a Bucs team that has Baker Mayfield, that is more than willing to turn the ball over, more than willing to take some bad sacks and strip sacks and things and stuff like that and whatnot. So I took the 8.5 points with Carolina. I know it's on the road, but I think Carolina's interesting. Looks like they're going to get Xavier Legette back as well. So one more thing that could work in Bryce Young's favor here in this one.
Yeah, this number is a bit higher than my fair, so I'm leaning to your side. It's not enough for me to play it. But I think what's keeping me off the Panthers is concerns about these injuries. Yeah. Again, Taylor Moton has not practiced. J.C. Horn has not practiced. That might be their 2 best players on each side of the ball. It's certainly within a player or 2. Yeah. Like, Moton is very good. This offensive line has been the life raft that has kept Carolina from completely sinking all season, really. Like, as their offense has come along in the second half of the year, the line continues to grade out well. They're 8th in adjusted line yards. They are 8th in adjusted sack rate. I think that when you watch them go up against a squad like the Eagles and hold their own, it's clear that this is a very good offensive line. They made a significant investment in it. Even Damian Lewis, DNP with illness. I mean, I'm assuming he'll be fine, but I'm worried about this line and J.C. Horn being out, Clowney, DNP as well, and which was really odd. He goes from full to DNP, so I don't know what's going on there, but I'm worried that Carolina is hitting the tank button here and pulling some of their best players off the field with minor nagging injuries. Obviously, like we said, the players on the field are going to play hard, but this is probably the easiest way to tank is to just pull all your guys with nagging injuries and put backups in. So that would be my concern here.
We did get a limited out of Clowney today, so officially listed as questionable in there. Leggett questionable as well. So it's they're listing some of these guys like with just illnesses and things like you said. So hopefully by the time things kick off, things could be good. Cade Otton out, Sterling Shepard out, Antoine Winfield out for the Bucs in this one. So Cade Otton had become a pretty big part of this offense actually, and then certainly works in the favor of Antoine Winfield. As an aside here, Carolina could be interesting. I know they were somewhat a little bit of a buzz team heading into this year or whatever, but if they actually spend a little bit of money in free agency and get some other dudes in there, maybe to throw to again as well. Like they've got a bunch of like 2s and 3s, but they don't have a 1. I don't know. Carolina could be interesting heading into next season, but
don't do this to me again. I'm not doing this again. I did this for 2 years in a row, and I'm not doing it again.
I could definitely be wrong. All right, so let's go Green Bay and Minnesota. What an interesting game here in this. This is 1 in favor of Minnesota at home over Green Bay. 48.5 is our total. We know Minnesota, Green Bay, and Detroit, all 3 teams out of the division, have already made the playoffs, but still so much up for grabs. Minnesota wins the last 2 games. They get the number 1 seed in the NFC. So this is a huge, huge game for all parties involved. Man, I don't even want to bet this game. I hope you have a bet. I don't want to bet this game because I'm so excited about watching it. But like I think that this is probably one of those things where by the time this thing kicks off, Mo, it wouldn't surprise me if it was a pick 'em or maybe even favored in the Packers way. I think the Packers sentiment is going to eventually take over.
I think it already has. I'm seeing some ones out there at some influential sites. So I don't really agree with that, even though I would very much like to see the Vikings lose. So I'm hoping that's right.
Yeah.
I am still sweating my Detroit division somehow when they have 2 losses. So that feels a bit unlucky, but I think my fare was Vikings -1. So, I mean, I can't like sit here and say just because it flipped on the other side of 1, I'm like thinking the Vikings are the value. I mean, it's not really enough for me to play it, but I do think the Vikings should probably be favored. I mean, when I look at the way the Vikings play, obviously they want to bring pressure, they want to blitz. Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur is a combo I mostly trust to handle that. We do see Jordan Love lose his mind at times and do some dumb things when he's under pressure, but I do like the fact that he is willing to make off-platform throws. He throws. I dog on his mechanics all the time. He's frequently throwing off his back foot when he doesn't need to. That comes in useful in spots like this, though, where you might have to throw off your back foot in some spots because the Vikings are just cover 0 every 4th play. So I think he'll probably find some spots to hit some big plays down the field when he is up against the all-out blitzes. And LaFleur is a coach that I trust to scheme against Flores. So I do think the Packers have some advantages. Their offensive line has been so good. So yeah, I'm hoping for my season bet that the Packers do it, but I understand that the line is within reason for sure and I don't really see much value. I mean, maybe the over. I mean, these offenses are so good.
Yeah, I'm shocked at how clean this Minnesota injury report is this far into the season. I mean, the only person that might miss this game is Fabian Moreau, and he's a backup corner as it is anyway. Harrison Smith that missed last week is going to be back for them at safety position, so it looks like they're going to have every starter going for them in week 17, which is pretty crazy. Looks like Christian Watson probably not going to go for the Packers. I don't know how much you think that matters. I mean, it seems to me everybody wanted to label Watson the one. It seems to me that Dobbs is really the one there now. So I know there's going to be some people who try to say that this matters, but it's kind of one of those things where I think Dobbs matters, but I don't know if any of the other combination of the dudes really matter because they just plug one of those other dudes in there and it seems to kind of work. The only one that I really handicap for, and maybe I'm wrong in this, is Dobbs, but I don't know. How do you kind of feel about that wide receiver room?
I would say that, I mean, I would make it matter less than probably you if any of those guys was out, to be honest. They just have such enviable depth. Yeah. I mean, Dobbs, I think, does serve as the top guy in most cases, but it's similar to like a Chiefs receiver being out or a Bills receiver. I mean, the target share is so spread out that I just don't think it really moves the needle all that much.
Yeah, I think there is a world that exists where this ends up being a shootout. Like, I think if I was leaning towards the over in this game, I would probably like play like some alt ladders or something like that because
it's like over 59 and a half.
Yeah. Like, I think there's definitely a range of outcomes where, this game plays into like the 30s between both of these teams. So like that's my inclination because I kind of think both of these teams are going to move the ball. I kind of think they're going to have success. And so that might be how I go about it here in this one. Dallas Cowboys on the road at the Philadelphia Eagles. This is 7.5 in favor of Philly, it looks like out here. But the news coming through, it is very, very likely that this is going to not have Jalen Hurts out there. That is what we're getting from the coaching staff as they took the podium today as well. So going to be interesting as a full touchdown favorite. That said, Dallas has shut down CeeDee Lamb for the season. So their only real weapon, I guess Rico Dowdle's been okay for them, but basically their only weapon is not going to be out there for this one, Mo. Sorry, fantasy championship players out there. Like, this guy, me. And like,
don't say sorry to me. I'm facing Lamb in 3 finals.
See, that's amazing. See, like I have him in like my big money league, and I was like, cool. I mean, it makes sense. I'm not like, Dallas shouldn't play him. They're out of the playoffs, and he's been playing with an injury all year. But yeah, that's super great. What do you think here about Philly with no Hurts and kind of their situation seemingly painted out for them as well?
Yeah, let me just say when I saw that Circa was hanging 9.5 in their contest, I thought that was bananas.
Yeah.
I still think it's bananas. Everyone is going to have Dallas. I think rightfully so. I'm wondering if honestly 7 is too high. I mean, Kenny Pickett. The thing is, not only was Kenny Pickett not very good, but I don't even think he's 100%. I know they're listing him as a full participant, but it did not even sound like it was certain early in the week that he would go. So I don't think he's 100%. And Kenny Pickett at 100% is not very exciting. Kenny Pickett at less than 100%, I get nervous. I don't understand how really they should be laying more than a touchdown. That being said, the market's moving very strongly that way. So it's getting to the point where I don't know if any value is really left. I mean, I had 5.5 as my fare here, so maybe I should just play 7. But I'm concerned about Lamb, obviously, and I can't get out of my head the way this Dallas offense looked the first time they played the Eagles. That was incredibly awful. I think I played Dallas in that game, and basically Cooper Rush didn't throw anything past the line of scrimmage, but he's been playing so much better the last month or so. They have been getting Dowdle going. The defense is much healthier than it was then. I just am concerned that they can't move the ball in this game against a very good defense, which is what I witnessed with my own two eyes last time these teams played. But at the same time, I mean, the total is like 38.5. I mean, I don't know how you cover these numbers pounding the rock like that. I know Saquon, out of all running backs, can rip off more long runs, but
did you look at
that's still a
did you
tough
look
way
at his
to
prop?
do it.
Do you see what his prop number is? What do you guess his prop number is?
116.5.
111.5. Yeah, like, I mean, they are not messing around. So there's two things going on here. A terrible, terrible, terrible run defense, and then they're also factoring in, I mean, he can break Eric Dickerson's record, right? And, like, I don't know, I want to get into this conversation because there's going to be a lot of people who are playing narratives over the next couple of weeks, Mo, but, like, some of the stuff I don't think is at all, like, I mean, everyone talks about, like, oh, they're these incentives and, like, oh, he's got to get 9 catches to get an extra $50K, and it's like, dude, I get it, it's $50K, and $50K is $50K, but they're not force feeding a dude for $50K and all stuff. But I very rarely buy into these narrative things unless it's like to set the all-time record in the NFL. Like, that's a pretty big deal, right? And so it would not surprise me for them to give Saquon an incredible amount of volume in this game. Like, I mean, to see if he can get close at least and see if there's any chance for him to get there in week 18. I don't know if 111 is enough. I mean, I know that's crazy to say, but I don't know if 111 is enough.
Well, one thing I feel like we can say pretty confidently is, I mean, Mike Zimmer's an old school defensive coordinator. I think he's going to flood the box. So I think if Saquon is able to break into the second level, he's going to be gone.
Yeah.
Like, I just think there's going to be a lot of very short runs, and there could be some very long runs in there as well, because if there's missed assignments, missed run fits, and he breaks away, I don't think there's going to be a lot of DBs that are very far back from the line in this game. I would anticipate they're just going to challenge an injured Kenny Pickett to beat them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I just given the total, I'm having a tough time laying off the Cowboys here, but I am a bit nervous about it.
The only bet I came close to making, and I still might, is so Saquon attempts is market low at 21.5. He's only got to get 22 attempts in this game. Like I said, like, I think they at least see if he can get close to the record in this game. And if he can't, then he can't. And maybe they just don't try all that hard in week 18. But I think they at least give him the opportunity. I mean, this is like a very rare circumstance that you can set an all-time record for the NFL, right? I mean, like, that is these are one of the few circumstances in which I actually kind of buy into narratives and stuff like that. And so 21.5, I think, might be in the account for an over on attempts at least. I guess I can't really, efficiency is something I can't necessarily guess, but I can certainly say they'll give him the opportunity. And so 22 rush attempts for Saquon. I mean, he gets out on a normal week anyway, right? Like, now, if there is any motivation to try to get him to this number, I think that could be something pretty interesting there with that one. Miami on the road at Cleveland. This is 6.5. We just had a 7 pop, actually, as we were talking. So a 7 has now popped in favor of Miami. 39.5. I did see the injury report come through as we were doing this. So no, there are a couple of starters that are going to be out on the defensive side for Cleveland, and also on the offensive side, officially listing Jameis Winston as questionable, so I guess he would be like QB3 or something, whatever. Njoku's out. Tillman is out. So, yeah, all of those guys, no good there for that. Miami pulled nothing to play for, though, Mo. So do they go to Cleveland and win by a touchdown?
I think so. I like Miami quite a bit. My fare was on the other side of 7 in this game, so I understand the move, and I took some 6.5, and I just think what we saw from DTR last week was bottom of the barrel NFL quarterback play. When you can't move the ball on Cincinnati, something is seriously wrong. That defense is atrocious. So
he's legitimately one of the 10 worst we've seen, like in mine and your lifetime, right? Like I'm sure back before we were really watching the NFL, there were some just horrible quarterbacks or something, but like I don't remember a dude much worse than him.
Listen, I watched Tyler Thigpen for the Chiefs, so I'll never see anybody worse than that, I'm sure. But yeah, DTR is extremely bad. I mean, when you can't move the ball on Cincinnati, something has gone horrifically wrong with your offense. So this is a much better defense. Miami isn't great or anything, but all of the metrics grade them as like respectable. Yeah. They're just like average to below average. Like they're not the worst by any means. Much, much better than Cincinnati. So that will be even more of a challenge. And I know there's going to be people who want to fade to outdoors, but I think more so than past Miami teams, this one can probably operate a bit better in the elements because they're just not really looking to throw the ball downfield. Just every week you turn on the Dolphins, they are dumping to the running back, they are dumping to the tight end. They want to play with quick passes, which will mitigate the only thing Cleveland does well on defense, which is get after the quarterback. I just think it's pretty much a dream matchup for Miami, and with facing the worst offense maybe in the NFL on the other side, or at least bottom three. I mean, I do not think this line should be south of 7, so it's just Miami in there for me. Good matchup, much better team. I don't see any concern here aside from Jameis playing. I mean, if Jameis comes in, I'm going to be worried.
Yeah, that's like the only thing here that would kind of muck up your handicap would it be if at halftime they just go, okay, we just can't do this anymore. we can't run this guy out there anymore. Would be the only thing to mess it up. If you're doing any same game parlays in this, just like Mo said in this handicap, like some way, shape, or form, Achane has to be part of your same game parlay because he is Tua's favorite human being on the face of the planet now. It's unbelievable how much he throws him the ball and how much Achane is like. Did you see last week? They're just lining him up in the slot now. Full on, not even coming out of the backfield. They're just like, hey, go line up in the slot and run regular routes and stuff. And so, Achane likely to have a pretty big role here in this game. Dolphins are going to be a contest play for me. I don't know if it'll make a real money bet for me, but definitely going to be a contest play for me. Sunday night football, we got a good flex here. Atlanta to Washington. 4.5. Let's see. Oh, there's 3.5 out there at Fanatics if you live in a Fanatics market and you want to play Washington. And if you're head to FanDuel, you can find a 4.5 if you want to play Atlanta. 47.5 is our total here in this one. So, he didn't throw for a ton of yards and all of that, Mo, but I think it was very telling that the very first play that Atlanta ran from scrimmage was a bootleg outside of the pocket, and it was almost like a middle finger to Kirk Cousins on the sideline where it's like, hey, look at this play that we can run that you can't run, and all this. And like we mentioned on the pod last week, even though he didn't run a ton at Washington, it doesn't mean the dude can't. And we saw some escapability from him this past week. Like I said, at the combine, at his pro day, he ran a 4.56. It's not like he's slow. It's not like this dude's caught in molasses or whatever. I certainly think it gives Atlanta a better chance to win with all of that. That said, hey, it's Washington is at least with Jaden Daniels always live, it seems like, in every single game. That said, 4.5 if you wanted to take the big number here in this one.
Yeah, 4.5. I'd start thinking about Atlanta. I had this one close enough to fair that I wasn't really planning to play it. Penix, he was a dual threat quarterback once, many years and ACLs ago at Indiana. So I thought he played pretty well. You saw the zip, which Kirk Cousins obviously lacks.
Yes.
So I still like Mooney. He didn't lead the league as I said, might be a good bet, but he still led the team in yards, and I think facing a weak Washington group of corners, especially Marshawn Lattimore out again, they have been extremely snake bit on that trade. I kind of hope for their sake, just for what they gave up, that he at least plays in the playoffs. I mean, not that I'm like any kind of Washington fan. I just feel bad what they gave up for him. They're not getting anything out of him. He's not even playing. So he just came back last week, instantly got hurt, and went back out, and now I think he's going to be out again. So Darnell Mooney should be in a good spot to possibly win at least once deep. I would lean Falcons here, yes. You have to always think about market reaction to, what could have happened last week, which is what happens if Devontae Smith catches that pass and Washington just loses. They're probably not 4-point favorites. So that's probably a play that Devontae Smith makes, 19 times out of 20. So I would lean towards selling peak Washington stock here, but I thought this line was within reason.
I will say this, it's forecasted it could be pretty heavy rain there in Washington for this one. Just a reminder, Michael Penix played at Washington where it just rains rains all the time in Seattle. That's all it does. It's just rain in Seattle. So very well versed in playing in not pristine conditions. Just something to think about too, because I know everyone's going to freak out whenever they see the rain and they're going to, oh my God, 2 rookie quarterbacks in the rain. What are they going to do? And it's like, well, I mean, Penix has
especially they're going to dome team in the rain.
Yeah. So it's it's a dude that played a ton in the rain. All it does is rain in Seattle. That's all it does. So just don't freak out too much whenever that ends up being the narrative, because that will inevitably be the narrative here in this one. Pull the wool over me, man. I took a little 4.5 with the Falcons. I think for a debut, it was pretty damn good out of Penix. And now, game under your belt, on the road, so there's no get me tickets to the game and all this shit like that. It's just a little less pressure for him, I think, being on the road and just kind of getting out of Atlanta and second start and all of that. I think they might maybe even win this thing outright. I think that's not outside of the realm of possibilities either. So I took a little 4.5. Maybe I'm a little too confident in what Penix could possibly be able to do, but I really did like what I saw. Another game that I rewatched this past week, and it wasn't perfect, but pretty good stuff out of a dude making his first start for sure. And now you get this Washington defense that just doesn't have anything, has no juice. Monday Night Football, Detroit and San Francisco. Do want to get your quick thoughts here on this one. I know we'll do a separate video, but this is a video that, this is a game that very interesting, because you have a San Francisco team that's dead, yet they're only 3.5-point dogs to one of the best teams in the NFL. Some people are calling shenanigans. Some people are just saying, no, this is about right. 50.5 is our total. What did you think of this one when you took a look?
This is another one that I thought was pretty fair. So thought it was a fine line. They did deactivate Trent Williams.
Yeah.
If people did not see that, then they should know that. I liked what they did last week with Debo.
Yeah.
Making him another centerpiece of the offense again. And he looked a lot better, and their offense looked a lot better. And I think mitigating just not having a running back, although that's not going to be a thing this week. So I think Shanahan will be excited to run the ball again. Patrick Taylor, bless his heart, probably can't be on an NFL field. He brought absolutely nothing to the table in that game. So just getting, I don't know how good Guerrero is, but nobody knows yet, but I think he has at least shown that he's functional, and I don't think Taylor was functional. So should see another decent performance from this 49ers offense. And given what Detroit has left on defense, obviously I was all in on them last week, but that is a much different opponent that has basically called it a season. I don't get the sense that the 49ers are ready to pack it in. I don't think they have that sort of quit in them, especially facing a team that they played in the playoffs last year, I do not feel like they are going to go out there and want to lay down for the Lions. So, yeah, I think this should be competitive.
Yeah, I mean, 50.5 total, so they obviously think there's going to be points in this one. I wonder, and I know that a lot of it played into last week, like you said, just having absolutely nobody at the running back position, but I wonder if Shanahan's just kind of YOLO balling this. I wonder if we don't see Purdy drop back close to 40 times in this game and just kind of like go at it. And I mean, again, it's end of the season, nothing to play for. Just let Purdy and Debo and everybody try to figure something out, get the reps, do whatever it is like to try and figure out what they're going to do next year when they come back with all of this. Cause I don't know if they're going to have a ton of success running the ball against Detroit. I mean, they actually, that defensive line has held up for even despite all the craziness that's going on with those injuries and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe the path of least resistance might be hucking it a ton. Couldn't see myself on an under. I'll say that. I know that's weird, but even at the number 50, we've seen Detroit hang 30 plus on multiple opponents this year. And San Francisco, for what it's worth, like you said last week, I mean, at least moved the ball and figured some stuff out and whatever. And so I will say this, Brock Purdy, Detroit does play a lot of man. And so Brock Purdy rush yards, because he is pretty quick to tuck and run whenever he sees lanes, and certainly whenever he sees a bunch of guys' backs turned to him. So Brock Purdy rush yards I did put in the account. I'll see what it is currently, just to make sure hadn't gotten out of control as far as it's 18.5. So yeah, I mean, that's fine. I think anything under 20 is fine. Purdy's going to see the back of jerseys a bunch in this. And so he's a dude that is pretty quick to pull it down and take off. Certainly if he can get a first down or whatever, something like that. So I took some Purdy rush yards. 18.5 is the market low out there. Go ahead and find that if you want to play that thing. Chargers on the road at the Patriots. This is 4.5 in favor of the Chargers. 42.5 to 43.5 is our total. Matt and Mo here going through this one. Mo, I don't even have to tell you what I bet in this game, so I'll just go ahead and let you give your handicap of this thing, because if anybody has been following our content for the last 7 weeks, you know how I played this game already. So we'll see what you got going on here, Chargers and the Patriots.
I fired the Chargers. Unfortunately, 4.5 did not grab the 4s. There were some 4s available. I think that's just too low. I mean, my fare here was 6, so I think even at 5, it's playable for a smaller price probably. Just the Chargers are the absolute can crushers of the NFL, man. I just so trust them. Mm-hmm. When there's a tomato can lined up, as my buddy Rich Ryan always says, the tomato cans. Bring in the tomato cans. When there's a tomato can, I am confident that the Chargers are going to crush said tomato can. The way they play football, minimizing mistakes, showing up on defense. They have a pass rush here in this game against an absolutely ludicrously bad Patriots offensive line, which my New England peoples are telling me is down to a center that they signed off the Raiders practice squad, I believe. That guy might not even be healthy. I don't know what's going on there. They are just down, scraping past the bottom of the barrel, really. They've broken the wood, and they're hitting the cement under the barrel at this point with this offensive line. So I don't see how that can be functional. I know Drake May has done amazing things given the situation he's in, but I just see the Chargers coming out and taking care of business here. My concerns here would be dome team playing outdoors, cross country. It's not an ideal spot, so I might stake this one a bit smaller, but the way the Chargers treat these bad teams is it's kind of like Detroit, but if like a poor man's Detroit. Yeah. You know, Detroit just comes out and waxes all these teams by 30. The Chargers come out and beat them by 17 or whatever, 14. Like, they just come out and take care of business against these bad teams, and I think they're going to do it again.
Yeah, again, no shocker, I took the over 42. The weather report looks pretty fine in this one. Actually, I mean, it'll be cold. Obviously, it's December in New England, but like only like a 30% chance of precipitation, no wind or anything like that. So, I mean, should be fine conditions for these people to play December football. And man, it is just week in, week out. Drake May is a great chase quarterback. That guy is fantastic when it comes to chasing. He is okay with running, taking off, getting the first down, extending plays, doing all the things like that. And honestly, at a total as low as 42 in conditions that I think are going to be perfectly fine, Mo, like you said, the Chargers are kind of built to crush a team like this. So I might only need like 10, 13 points out of them to get this over 42. And so over 42 for me here in this one. And I'm going to continue to play it until the Patriots. I mean, we're friggin' 7 for 7, guys, like over the last like 7 games. I mean, so just like keep going with it, right? I mean, until I don't know why it hasn't caught up.
Well, last week it missed, right?
No, well, if you got the early number, if you got the closer, again, you got the closer. Yes, you didn't, but that's why I've been screaming, just bet the over as soon as these damn things open up, right? Like you got to bet the thing as soon as it opens up. The closing number sometimes does matter. I know CLV sometimes does matter. I have a whole shit pile of CLV that I don't use, but I mean, sometimes it actually does matter in these things. One of the interesting things I think in this one though, Mo, and I'm curious your opinion as to what you think the optimal game plan is going to be for the Chargers here in this one. Like, do you think this is just completely balanced? Do you think they come out and throw it all over the place? Do you think that they run it? Like, because I don't know if there's such thing as tune-up games when you get to week 17 in the NFL, but if you're the Chargers and you're going to the playoffs and like your pass game has been as clunky as it has been, I do kind of wonder a little bit if we don't maybe see a little bit more aggression on the passing side from the Chargers. Like, and I don't know if that benefits anybody at all, to be honest with you. It seems like Lad McConkey is the only guy that has any sort of consistency here for this team. But if somebody's trying to come in and play some props, or maybe even from a fantasy perspective here in championship week or whatever, is there any sort of game plan that you think the Chargers might go after?
I think it partially depends on J.K. Dobbins. I'm seeing that he has been designated for return.
Mm-hmm.
If I was the Chargers, I would not be in a hurry to get him back out there, obviously, with very little leverage in these last couple of games. I would expect them not to play him, and if they don't, I don't know how excited Jim Harbaugh is going to be about a game plan that has heavy doses of Hassan Haskins because Gus, I believe, is already out. So Kimani, Vidal, whatever they got left there, I don't imagine they're going to be trying to lean too hard into that. But I could see them pounding the rock a bunch if Dobbins is back there and they feel good about him. So that might be a swing factor there because I don't know what Dobbins' situation is. If it was me, I would be looking to rest him until it's go time.
Yeah, I agree with you there a ton. It does also look like they're going to get Will Dissly back in this game. And if you were watching, like, Dissly had kind of become the second option for Herbert, because when you have a wide receiver in Quentin Johnston that only catches every other ball that's thrown to him, like at least Dissly was catching stuff. So no props up yet for Dissly because he's not officially been ruled in. So just keep an eye on that. If anything, if it seems a little too low, Dissly had really kind of carved out a nice role for him here in this offense there for the Chargers. Saturday, NFL, Denver Broncos on the road at the Cincinnati Bengals. Matt and Mo coming to you from the lines. This is 3.5 in favor of Cincinnati at home. Over the Broncos, 49.5 to 50 is our total. You guys already know Cincinnati still by the numbers involved in the playoff hunt here. Still need some things to go right, but first and foremost, Mo, they got to continue winning.
Yeah, and I'm not sure they're going to here. I like the Broncos quite a bit. Broncos money line, Broncos cheap 3 in my account. I do not understand how anybody can get 2, 3, or past 3 with these two teams. It is baffling to me that Cincinnati got up to 3.5. I think there's still some expensive 3.5s on the plus side out there. I chose to go the less expensive route there. I do not know how you can get these teams past 3. I mean, I do rate Cincinnati a hair higher than Denver just because passing offense carries all of the water in the league nowadays, and theirs is better. I don't rate them significantly higher to where the Broncos should be 3-point dogs. I mean, with a rest advantage as well, and honestly, this defense kind of got embarrassed in the second half of that game against the Chargers. They rate so well in all of the metrics. I think we're going to see a better performance. I think a lot of it is going to come down to corralling Joe Burrow in the pocket. I mean, the guy is an absolute... Yeah, reminds me a lot of Patrick Mahomes in the pocket. I mean, he is an eel in there. Trying to get your hands on him, and he is a slippery, slippery dude, man. And he's quite aware of what's going on around him, and he is frequently able to mitigate poor blocking up front, which he has seen, unfortunately, plenty of this year. Their line has not been as good as it probably should have been on paper. So I think Denver's pass rush is going to be having its chances. Will they get their hands on him, or will they let him escape and find somebody downfield? But then you look at the matchup on the edge, and with this secondary, I mean, they have Riley Moss coming back. I believe he logged a full practice. I think he's playing. It's Denver secondary's whole. They have the horses to match up with these guys. I don't think it's going to be easy mode for Cincinnati. I know that. I just feel like the market is maybe confident in them after they just destroyed the Browns. That was like not a real NFL offense that they played. And yeah, I think Denver is going to put up much more resistance. And I don't know I don't know why the Bengals would get stops here. I mean, I know they put a little bit of pressure on the quarterback, and that's kind of what you need to do against Bo Nix, but every time I see Denver against these bad defenses, they're pretty much moving the ball. Their O-line should dominate in this game, so I can't get them to 3, man.
I like this. We don't have these very often, so I'm on the other side of this one with Cincinnati. Their offensive line going to be healthy for the first time in a very long time, so they'll have all 5 starters back out there. Now, how effective they're going to be to be determined, but at least it's starters and not backups for Cincinnati out there in this one. This doesn't have – I have no motivation factor handicapped into this, so like don't get it twisted, guys. I'm not like going like, oh, they're going to got to do this because they got to get in the playoffs. It's going to take a miracle for them to get in the playoffs. They need so many different things to go right. It really kind of comes down to, with Denver, having Surtain, who can just absolutely, shut down most receivers. I kind of am really looking forward to them trying to shadow Jamar Chase. I think that's going to be really, really bad news for them. I don't know if they'll do it. And if they don't do it and just have Surtain play aside, well, there might not be a better quarterback / team equipped to kind of take on and looking and be like, oh, okay, he's lined up with T. Higgins. I'm going to throw it to Jamar Chase. Oh, okay, he's lined up with Jamar Chase. I'm going to throw it to T. Higgins. Oh, it's Gesicki over the middle. I think that there's just a different animal that Cincinnati brings to most different teams from an offensive perspective that is pretty unique to this team. And as you mentioned with Burrow, just the Burrow factor is like almost unhandicapable because of what he's doing this year. It's like, it's so wild that we're sitting here debating whether it's Lamar or Josh Allen as far as the MVP. And we don't even talk about Joe Burrow, who, if this team had 10 wins right now, would be the favorite. Like he would be the favorite, but they don't. And so, and here's the thing. I actually expect Denver to run the ball, and I think they'll do it effectively. But the problem is when you run the ball effectively, and you kind of fall in love with doing that, you have to be perfect, right? Like when you're running, it is the least efficient way of moving the ball in the NFL. And you basically you can get those 4-4-2s and 4-4-3s and whatever, you keep moving the chains, but then you get to like the 40-yard line and then it doesn't work, and you're forcing Bo Nix to pass the ball. And certainly this is as good a secondary as any for him to try to go up against, because Cincinnati hasn't been able to stop people all year long. But I just don't have a ton of confidence in Nix in this offense to be able to move the ball whenever they need to and pick up those first downs whenever the run game actually does kind of get stopped and does kind of get stalled. So Cincinnati can outscore anyone. I expect them to outscore Denver in this one. So I'd only play 3 though, 3.5, no good. And the 3s now are super, super expensive out there in this one. So maybe even by the time you watch this, they're gone. So I wouldn't play the 3.5s, but I thought the flat 3 was the play here in this one. Mo and I don't disagree very often, so I like that we're on opposite sides of a game here, so you can get both different both opinions. This is Arizona and the Rams. This is 6.5 in favor of the Rams. 47.5 is our total. Quick reminder, everything to do absolutely free. Hit that subscribe button down below. Let us know in the comment section how you are going to play this Cardinal squad on the road at the Rams. Mo, I think that this isn't outside of Vegas. I don't think I'm being crazy by saying it's maybe the least home field advantage that there is in the NFL. We've seen this stadium. It's basically half full with opposing fans all the time as it is. So I don't know if you really factor much into the home field advantage here with this one. Pretty quick little flight from Phoenix to LA too, if anybody's trying to get out of town from Phoenix. Arizona dead in the playoffs. Obviously Rams, every single thing to play for.
Yeah. So obviously I love the Cardinals. I mean, but this is to me just like the most classic of NFL late season spots.
Yeah.
Everybody loves the side that seemingly has the motivation, and they're playing a dead division rival that I think is still going to come out and play hard. I don't see why they wouldn't. I think all of these teams pretty much play hard against their division rivals. And I think the line is reflecting an unreality, basically, that the Cardinals are just going to come out and sleepwalk. I don't think that's going to be a thing. I mean, and given that, I just do not see how this line can be 6.5, man. I know that both tackles are out for Arizona. That's obviously a concern for me, as really the only strength of any sort the Rams have on their defense is their edge rush. But if there's a quarterback that can mitigate that, it's probably Kyler Murray. He can escape, and I don't think they're going to pass a ton anyways. I think both teams are going to come out and pound the rock and probably do so effectively. That's going to shorten the game, less possessions, less time for the Rams to run away with this one. I would caution people against looking back at that first game. I know the Cardinals crushed them, but that was when the Rams had like one starting lineman or something ridiculous.
Yes.
So
that was
whatever.
A completely different team. Yeah.
I'm not like thinking about that. I just want people to know that that's not why I'm doing this. But yeah, I think this line is just way too high, man. If this game happened 3 weeks ago, I mean, the Rams would have been like -3 here. I do not understand how 6.5 is the number. And this is bananas.
And it looks like they're going to have both Connor and Benson back in this one for the Cardinals. And normally, I know hashtag running backs don't matter, but weirdly, James Conner matters to this. James Conner matters to this offense. Like you watch, like James Conner was having a day, and then when he went out, this offense started to stumble and fall and all kinds of things like that. And I think that this is obviously, guys, I'm leading into that I did play the Cardinals, and we'll come back in on the Cardinals too if this thing happens to get to 7, which, by the way, this is a juiced 6.5 at 1, 2, 3, 4 different books out there. Like, I don't know, since it is a standalone, island game, whether the favorite is going to get a bunch of money coming in on them or not, but I would come back in for a second helping if this got to the full touchdown. That's for sure. And like you said, there are some teams that you can tell, Mo, that like did quit and have quit, and then other teams you can tell that are still like really going at it. And I don't want to do the rah-rah thing here either, but it is a divisional game in which like you can make it way harder for the team to get to the playoffs and maybe knock them out of the play. All the stuff that goes into some of this stuff that you have to pump these guys up with to get them to keep playing hard once their season is dead. And there is all of that. And then also, man, like, just if I'm the GM, if I'm the coaches, if I'm whatever, like Kyler and Marvin Harrison never got on the same page all season long. Like, I mean, this isn't like, oh, okay, we had a great season, well-oiled machine, we're going to head into the offseason, like, we're going to come back next year. They're like, Marvin Harrison, arguably, Mo, like the 8th best rookie receiver in the NFL this year, like, if that, I mean, like just didn't get off at all, really, with Kyler Murray. So I think there's still a lot to prove here for Arizona in these last couple of games. And I think that they moved the ball here as well. I was tempted at the over. I didn't play it. I think both of these teams can score. I was tempted at getting in on the 47.5. That's not to say if I play some kind of, just for fun, same game parlay type thing or something that I won't do that as well. But that's kind of where I'm leaning. It would be over. And like I said, I did take some 6.5 and certainly will come back in for some 7 if it happens to be available.
Yeah, I mean, Marvin has stunk up the joint.
Yeah.
Let's just call it what it is. He hasn't been very good. But like you said, a younger team, I think they want to build with the core in place. Yeah, like I don't see any reason they're not going to come out. I mean, we talk about player effort all the time, but like the coaching staff, like you said, and the front office is still going to be pushing for good performances and building in the next season. And like I know everyone loves Matt Stafford, but let's just be honest with what's happening. He's had one good game in 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. I mean, he has actually pretty much sucked for a month. He wrecked the Bills, and that was about it, man. Yeah. I mean, they have not been playing well. So I do not. I know Kyler hasn't been playing well either, but I just do not see how this line can be 6.5.
I also always look to with Kyler games like, what is the pressure rate that the opponent brings? What is the blitz rate that the opponent brings? Because you're always a Kyler backpedaling 11 steps, horrible interception away from your bet getting crushed. But it's they're in the bottom 10. The Rams are in the bottom 10 in both of those categories. So hopefully we're not dealing with that too much or whatever. When I'm backing Kyler, the only thing I start to scream at the television is when I see him running straight backwards, and I'm like, oh, my God.
Every single interception he throws is a head scratcher. Yeah. I've never seen a quarterback who, a higher percentage of their interceptions are, absolute, Spock meme, where you're just how did you even think that was a thing that you could try to do?
I know. And, so if I see heavy pressure rate, heavy blitz rate, things like that with teams, sometimes I pump the brakes with Kyler because the dude's going to be worth one horrible turnover, maybe 2, whatever. But shouldn't be the case here with the Rams, at least if things hold up for the season. So I do like this a ton. Like I said, guys, by the time you watch this, if this thing is at 7, I love it at 7. I like it at 6.5 a pretty good bit. I love it at 7. Mo, honestly, a week that's fairly interesting when it comes to games. I mean, certainly some games that are just absolute stinkers and all of this. I think this is a great time for us to remind people, like we talk about each and every week on this podcast, if you hate a game and you hate whatever, you don't have to bet it. I know we like action, we like whatever. Find something you like a little bit better. Don't force some stuff because there are some games here where the range of outcomes, given how terrible the two teams are and what may or may not be going on behind the scenes and in the locker room and all the stuff in the front office, we don't need to be forcing bets this week.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have a few like that. I would say definitely the Cowboys. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if I should pull the trigger there. But yeah, a lot of stinkers, a lot of Matt Brown games to fire into the pod and
yes,
send up to the sun.
Let's do it, guys. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on a holiday week. I know I know you're doing some traveling. I know you spend some time with the family and all that. So appreciate you giving us your time. And hopefully we win some bets here this week. Hopefully we cash. And of course we're going all the way through the Super Bowl. So we'll be here with you each and every week, breaking down all of the games. For Mo, I am Matt. Good luck on all your Week 17 bets.